Hello and welcome back. This is Larry Woodstone, and we're so excited to have you back. There's been so much time since our last podcast, and here, right off the hoop, I've got Gary with us, as I always do. Gary.
Yeah, hi.
Gary, happy holidays.
It would be happy, but John Coleman died recently.
Oh, Gary. But you know what? You know what John would want, Gary? John would want you out in the woods chopping down trees and really just carving. You know, something about John, and for the people who are part of the wood enthusiast community, they know that John was, he was an avid carver. And that's something he always said.
Mm-hmm.
He'd say, Gary, Gary and Larry, you guys got to come out with me to the bush. We got to cut down some softwood and carve. That's what he would say, Gary.
Yeah.
That's what he would say.
So
in the spirit of John, even before we get in this episode, but in the spirit of John, I say, let's get our whittling knives and let's carve. Let's carve this season into 2019. is kind of what I'm trying to say.
That's so wise. That's a very beautiful tribute to a well-known TV meteorologist.
It's an experience. It's an experience knowing someone like John, and I know going into the holiday season, I want to say to myself, John's someone that I'm barely going to remember because I didn't have a lot of interactions with him, but he's, he is someone that passed away.
Yeah, he did.
And these are tough subjects. It sounds to me, Gary, like you've got the sniffles.
It just, it's been a mix of emotions today. So, anyways, it's good. It's good seeing you.
Sounds like you've got a bit of. It sounds like you got some sniffles there, Gary.
I have a 4.5-month and a 20-month-year-old, and they got the poops and the coughs.
Oh, they've got slippy poops. Oh my goodness, Gary, your house is probably just in disarray.
It's a rough one, Larry.
Well, tell me about the new bench, Gary. I know you said, Larry, I don't mind doing a podcast. Get the guys together, get the executive producers, get the writers, get the screenplays, get the set designers, get the mics, get everything set up, and I'll do it. You said that. You said you'll do this, but you said you want to, no pulling punches. You want to get, right to the quick. So tell me about the bench, Gary. Tell me about the bench, Gary.
Well, it's curved at a 42 and held with a nice firm pine with a maple backing,
Gary,
and it can hold quite a bit of ash.
Gary, it sounds like you said you curved it at 42 on purpose. So, did you go wetwood? Did you go wetwood and curve it, Gary?
I did actually. I used Heinz ketchup bottles.
Oh, that sounds like a new technique, Gary. I don't like Heinz, Gary. I like French's. I'm more of a French's ketchup person because of how much they support the Canadian economy.
Yeah, but they don't taste as good.
No, it's a better taste. It's actually, we've done some studies on it, Gary, and it's a better taste. But you know what? This isn't ketchup enthusiasts. This is wood enthusiasts. So that bench, right, Gary, and for the people that don't know, and at this stage of the game, I can't imagine someone that doesn't know. But Gary, you've had your bench highlighted in multiple magazines in the past 2 months. And part of the reason we've been off air, and I know Gary can speak to this, and Nance, Gary's wife Nancy, I call her Nance. I've been calling her Nance for years and years. But they've been on the road. They've been very, very busy. You've been touring.
Larry, do you want to? I just need to jump in there. You're right. This bench has been in a lot of newspapers and magazines,
media sources, media outlets. It sounds like.
That's right. Do you know what I like to call that, though? Nance and I joke around a lot about it.
What do you call it, Gary?
That's my bench press. Thank you. Yes.
That's I'm drooling here, Gary. That's classic Gary. I'm drooling. Hey, Gary, I'm drooling. I drooled a little bit on the laptop.
I knew I'd get you on that one.
Yeah, but that's so classic Gary. That's the kind of reason that I say, obviously Gary, I've been saying for years that you're one of the wisest people I've ever met. And you know that, Gary. You know that. I mean, this isn't new. This is news. This isn't forefront news. But Gary, something that some people don't know is the amount of wisdom. But not only that, but the amount of comedy. I mean, you've been working for decades on some of your jokes, Gary.
Yeah.
And some of your jokes we'll go into the public setting. Obviously, back to the podcast here. We've been doing a lot of touring in the last few months, and we've been doing a lot of speaking engagements, and we've been doing people have called us kind of a B class celebrity, And some people say, oh, Gary, he's like Nick Cage. He's kind of the same. He's kind of the same celebrity as Nick Cage, and that's what they've been saying about Gary, and me and John Travolta. And I said, I don't believe I don't believe that hooky walk stuff that he believes in with that Scientology, nonsense.
No.
But
No.
but I've seen a few of his flicks. I've seen a few of his movies, and he's a good actor. He's a pretty good actor, Gary. So I don't mind the comparison. But what I was saying, Gary, is we're going on stages, and Gary's kind of been cracking some of his jokes, and people don't laugh, but I think it's because the humor it's kind of so far past people's understanding. It's kind of next realm, and that's what I call it, Gary. I've been saying that for years. It's next realm.
Well, Jennifer the other day was walking by our place, and she yelled out to me. She went, "Hey, Gary, grainy," and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, she was referencing one of your jokes that you made on stage.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, she was, she's been on our team for at least 6 months now, and she's been a wonderful addition to the team, Gary. She's kind of had to fix, fill in the gaps where other people are lacking because, Paul hasn't been up to his normal self ever since the incident. We barely even see him. He never even comes out. Yeah. You're still paying him a full bill, but we never even see him.
You're
still signing the paychecks, Gary. You're still signing the paychecks.
Yeah, but you always call him LBL, and I actually now agree with you on that.
Yeah, he is a lunch bag letdown. And just for the people, that don't know the expression, Gary. As a child, when I grew up, we went, Gary, nowadays they have plastic school lunch boxes, but back in the day we had lunch bags. We had little brown bags. And Gary, I know you know that. You know that.
I whittled my own.
You whittled your own lunch pail. Really, it was a wooden pail. But so we would pull out our bags, and the teacher she'd say, "Oh, come on, Larry, time to go for recess. Grab your lunch bag and grab a snack." And she'd say that. She'd say, "Grab a snack." So I'd open my lunch bag, and by that time, Gary, I hadn't even checked my lunch before. I hadn't checked it because Mother packs it and she sends it away with you, and you put it in your book bag and you go to school. So what would happen is I'd open my lunch bag, and it would either be a wonderful day, you maybe get a little kind of a sweet snack surprise, or it'd be or you'd get a half open can of tuna with a slice of cheese, and that would be a lunch bag letdown. So sometimes when I reference Paul as an LBL, and that's a direct reference to lunch bag letdown, it's because I'm looking in the bag and there's nothing there, nothing but a pile of rubbish. Really, is what it is. And Paul. And finally, Gary, you're finally on our team, and you're saying, Paul, you need to start pulling your weight. You're still paying him full salary, which I've struggled with, and that. I've said that too for weeks and 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 weeks, Gary. I've said that for weeks.
Yeah, but we have a contractual.
Yeah. And like I said, he's not holding up his end of the bargain. So he's if anything, he's breaking contracts. So, but Gary, I wanted to get back to this, to our touring. And Gary, unfortunately, the Junos called. The Junos, so people that are in the, all over the world may not know what Junos are.
Alaska?
They might not know what Junos are. No, not Juneau, Alaska. Junos, the awards ceremony from the Canadian music industry.
You know what we say about that, Larry?
What do you say about that?
Do you know about the Junos?
Oh my goodness, Gary, are you pulling one of your pranks?
Yeah.
Gary, is that one of your pranks?
Yeah, well, so
that's one of Gary's pranks, guys. Our audience is probably, you know what? We might as well just waste some space here because they're probably chuckling, rolling their shoulders to more of Gary's pranks.
So, yeah.
Gary's knocking. That's what they call Gary, the Babe Ruth of jokes. He's knocking them out of the park. That's what he does. So, like I was saying, Gary, and you know this, we've talked about it, and unfortunately we can't do it, but the Junos called and asked us to host. They asked us to MC. Some of our fame and some of our celebrity and some of our, our Canadian status.
Since the Potts episode, for sure.
Well, it's kind of grown at a proportion. And Gary and Nance just said it's too much. Enough is enough. We've been in the public eye for a long time. We want to kind of stalk away back into our woods and let the winter take over. And Gary's, Gary lives in Muskoka, don't you, Gary?
I do.
How much snow do you have there, Gary?
About 4.
You've got about a 4, Gary?
It was about 4 and 2, but we're at a 4 now.
You're at about a 4 and 2 not too long ago, it sounds like, Gary.
That's right.
So we don't have any snow, Gary. We have none.
None.
We're at a 13.
None.
We're at a 13. We have none.
Wow.
And we have we have nothing but green grass and and slippery slopes here. And my kids like to toboggan. Next door there's a hill, there's a toboggan hill, but it's just slippery slopes and mud. So unfortunately,
we got slippery poops.
It looks, yeah, you guys got a house full of it.
Yep.
And smelly diapers. So like I was saying, actually, you know what? Before we go on to this, because it's going to get pretty heavy, it's going to get very serious. It's going to get very serious, Gary. We're going to take a quick commercial break, okay? So just give us one moment, and we'll be right back with Wood Enthusiasts. Okay, we'll just talk about whatever. What did you want to bring up? I can't remember.
I don't know. I wanted to talk about John Coleman.
Is that a real person?
Yeah, he founded the Weather Network.
Did he die?
Yeah.
Oh.
You talked about him at the beginning.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know if he was a real person.
Yeah, he's the founder of the Weather Network.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I had a good snicker at the beginning, so.
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, why don't we talk about people retiring young?
No. Yeah, well, I'll bring it up. Sure. Yeah, I'll bring it up. No, I'll bring it up. Do we have his name?
Yeah.
Bryce?
What?
What's his name going to be? Bryce?
Yeah, I guess. Because he'll have time on his hand to film now and stuff, too, so. Yeah. Bryce, it is.
No, let's go with Corey.
Okay.
No, that's not funny either.
Good.
That's not funny either. Bernard?
How about Bernard? Do you think he'd be in the... What?
He's a perfect Bernard.
Do you think he'll be in the council?
I don't know. I can't tell.
Right.
He loved the idea. He could write it. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming back. It's been such a long time, Gary, since we've done this. I kind of forgot what commercial breaks were like, and we, as Gary knows, and as some of our team knows, we have so many products just kind of clamoring to get a spot on the show, Gary.
Yeah. That's right.
We can't do it all. But we get a little bit extra money if we speak directly about a topic, or about a product. And Gary, I wanted to say, if you want to fulfill any of your tool needs or any of your tool desires, please consider DeWalt. I've been using DeWalt tools since blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say my age, Gary. They wanted me to say my age, but I'm not going to say my age. I've been using DeWalt tools since as long as I can remember. They're powerful, they're strong, and they're durable. Get your DeWalt tools today. Anyways.
You don't use DeWalt, you use Milwaukee.
Oh, stop it, Gary.
Oh.
Gary, this is a commercial spot.
Oh.
So thank you guys for joining us. We're so excited to have you guys back here, and we've got a lot of topics today because as a Wood Enthusiast community, we've been taking a break because we've been touring. And Gary and Nancy and myself and Bernice, my wife, Bernice, we've been touring. And I was out, actually, Gary, I was out a few nights ago. I was at a dress shop. I was buying some clothes for Bernice. I like to buy her dresses, and you know that, Gary. I like to go shopping and buy pantyhose and dresses and kind of pick them out for her. And when we were out, we bumped into a few of our friends. And one of them was an old friend, Gary. And I know you're going to be excited to hear that we've been talking, but I bumped into Bernard. Bernie. Bernie's, he's kind of, as they say, he's back on the market.
Wow.
He has recently decided to retire.
Isn't he only he's young, isn't he?
He's 37 years old and he's retired. He just retired. Bernie retired because he said, you know what he said? He said, I don't have enough time for woodworking. I don't have enough time for my hobbies. And one of his biggest hobbies is woodworking.
What a gem. He's a gem in a limestone,
Well, he's been very wise. He's been very wise with his money, and he buys only the finest grains, and he's bought so many hardwoods over the past decade that I've known him, Gary, and you've known him longer than I have. But I go to his house and I just see his walls are just lined with they're just giant slabs of live edge hardwood that are just leaning against all of his walls. And because of that, he's able to retire, and I think that's incredible. I'm so proud of him. When I speak of it, I speak fondly because I'm so proud of him.
Bernie might be able to help you run in the next election. No.
Well, I talked to him because of his amount of intelligence, and Gary. That's something you've pointed out is how intelligent he is. I said, you'd be really good at helping me run my campaign, but before we go any further, I don't think the people here know exactly what I'm talking about. So, Well, you kind of sprung it. We're a little bit live, and Paul not being here, we can't delete any of these little, any of these little errors. We can't delete the mistakes because Stephanie doesn't know how to run the programs. She's here. She's always here. She's so supportive. But I am thinking about running for town council, and this is something that it's tough because of my celebrity. It's kind of a shoo-in. It's kind of a shoo-in for me because of how famous I've gotten. Kind of globally, internationally, because of the wood enthusiast community and the podcast. But I've been thinking about wanting to make some change in our local, in our local areas. So,
well, if you get in, I will come down there, and I will work with you because I think you can change.
Gary, I want to floor your mind here, and we haven't talked about this because it's been pretty personal. But let's let the cat out of the bag, and let's put the dog back in the bag here. So okay. We're actually going to be running up in Utterston. We're going to be running for town council in Utterston.
Really?
Yeah, we're gonna be moving ourselves out of Muskoka. We're gonna be running town. We're gonna be kind of running for town council in Utterston, and that's that's in 2019. I'm not.
Well, I guess I don't have to move.
I'm not ready to do that yet, Gary. I'm not ready to do that yet, Gary. I've got some work to do still. I've got some signs to make, and we've got some strategies to develop. And I think Bernie's gonna be part of that. Not Bernie, my wife, but Bernie Bernard. Bernie Bernard. I gotta make sure people don't get Bernice and Bernard mixed up when I call them both Bernies.
I have an idea, Larry. We can cut a whole bunch of trees out.
Okay, thank you guys so much. We're going to have another commercial break, and we'll be right back to you. Thanks very much.
Okay.
I just had to cut you off for fun.
Okay.
So welcome back. We're so glad. Again, we're so glad this is our second commercial break. And, the producers, Gary, want us to have 12 commercial breaks. And I said, no. I said, this is about the wood. This show is not about, all the fame and all the press and all the money. This show's about wood. I've got other avenues, Gary. I've got other avenues where I can do the fame thing.
That's right.
But this is
I was
wood.
going to mention that.
And Gary, I wanted to give you an idea. Something I've been doing on the internet is kind of spewing out my ideas. I got some really nice ideas. When I say spew, it's another word for like kind of vomit, kind of barf.
Okay.
So
yep. I knew a guy named Aspew.
That's right.
Aspew.
Yeah. So we kind of it's kind of like the word barf. So I kind of have some of these ideas that I've been putting on the internet, and
okay.
And I don't want to give too much away because Gary, obviously we're going to exchange gifts. It's Christmas time. We're going to exchange gifts. But one of the ideas I had, Gary, was I got a couple of my hand planers, and I went real thin. Okay. So I brought that blade in real niche. I brought it in real niche, real close to the baseline, and I'm hauling this thing thin. Okay. You got to understand that. You got to understand this. So I'm pulling in the blade. It's right at the baseline. I call it a nick crotch. It's right at the very base. And I'm planing these pieces of spruce. And these pieces of wood that are coming off, I mean, Gary, they're 3 or 4 feet long at times. Like, I'll take a 3 or 4 foot piece of wood and I'll plane it right to the, nip to nip. And I'm getting these slices of wood unencumbered. So what I've been doing, Gary, is I've been using that to wrap my presents.
That's very smart.
Wow. Listen to this, Gary. I've been taking pieces of plain wood and wrapping gifts with it, Gary.
That's a genius thing to do.
And you know what, Gary?
What's that?
I've been taking these little pucks of sap from pine. You get little bits of sap that come out. It gets really tacky. I've been saving the little pups of tack there, and I've been using that instead of tape. So literally, when you get your gift, it's going to be wrapped in spruce and pine, and you're not even going to want to open that thing. It's going to smell so nice.
I'm just going to rub it.
It's not video games, Gary. I didn't get you video games. Nance said.
No,
Nance said once you get him started on video games.
No, I'm gonna rub one for the scent, the rub fresh.
Yeah, but I didn't inside the spruce. It's not a video game, Gary. Nancy said I couldn't. You tried to get me to get you a video games. Nancy said I couldn't.
I want Pac-Man.
Yeah, Nancy said we weren't allowed to get video games free this year, Gary. You've got too many kids now, Gary.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Gilbert, you got too many kids now.
Hey, I want to tell our listeners about something interesting that I don't think they've ever known about trees. The reason we have green leaves on trees.
Oh my goodness, Gary! Goodness, Gary! I'm really excited about this fun fact. It sounds like we got a fun fact. Let's do a fun fact segment with Gary Gilbert.
Yeah, leaves are green because of chlorophyll.
That's amazing. I'm gonna do the whole intro. Like the whole fun facts, and then that's all you're gonna say is that one little tiny thing. Okay, hold on.
Well, the whole thing is leaves appear green because chlorophyll absorbs red and blue light energy, causing the green energy to bounce off the leaf surface.
Yeah, no,
But
I just like I like
chlorophyll.
exactly what you said before, though. So.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, what a Gary, you are so full of facts, and that's one of my favorite parts about Gary. It's not only it's not only your face, Gary. Obviously, I like your face, but it's also your the amount of facts you have, Gary.
Thank you. I want everybody to have knowledge.
So, Gary, tell me something about Christmas, Gary.
Christmas started a long time ago.
What about I don't know. Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know what to do. So Gary, I want to ask you a few little questions. So tell me a little bit about Holly.
Yeah, she.
No, Gary.
She's my neighbor.
No, Holly, the plant, the bush. You know.
Oh yeah, mistletoe is actually the English common name for most.
That's Gary. I don't think that's Holly, Gary. It's Gilbert.
Yeah.
I don't think Holly and mistletoe are they the same thing, Mr. Gilbert? Are Holly and mistletoe the same thing, Mr. Gilbert?
Yeah. Holly is mistletoe.
Wow.
Mr.
Gilbert.
It's a hemiparasitic plant, so.
Oh, deep side of heaven! I never knew that, Mr. Gilbert.
Well, now you do. So they're usually attached to the host of the tree.
Boring. Mr. Gilbert, sorry, I had to cut this off here. Mr. Gilbert, you're just talking. We were off mic for a second because we had to deal with some technical issues, and I'm sorry about that, Gary. I'm sorry about that, Gary. And you mentioned something about chips. So tell the audience what we were talking about, Gary, because I think this is actually really interesting information.
About planks?
About chips.
Oh, chips.
Planks and chips.
Are you talking about wood chips or Humpty Dumpties?
So go ahead, Gary.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about wood chips. You can refine them very nicely. You kind of toast them so that you still have the scent, and you carry them around in your pocket.
But Gary, you're just too busy these days. I mean, I appreciate the fact that Juno's asked me, and me and Bernice, we're thinking about doing a something at Juno's, not necessarily hosting. But you're just too busy, and you said with your wife that it's too much.
Right.
So so we're not going to represent. It's kind of because of you that we're not going to do the Junos this year because they want it as kind of as a package deal. You see, they like to dual host.
That's correct.
So I'm not able to do the Junos. It's kind of a big event for the old John Travolta of the wood enthusiast community, and that's what they've been saying. A lot of people have been kind of comparing me to John Travolta because of his good looks. I think maybe because of his jawline, Gary. He's got a very strong jawline, Gary.
Yep. And he was also in Dirty Dancing, was he not?
You do a lot of Nicolas Cage. You do a lot of Nicolas Cage impersonations. Why don't you show the audience one of the impersonations?
Hey, don't go in there.
Oh, Gary, that was a good one, Gary. That was from Con Air. That was
That's
from
right.
Con Air, Gary.
You got it. Dead on.
That was a good one, Gary. I recognize that, right?
Hey, I got a question for you. I'm getting very upset about things. Why is it that snacks?
You often get upset about things, Gary. You often get upset about things, Gary.
I'm very angry about this. Why are snacks always in material that is so loud that makes people look at you like, why are you eating snacks?
Gary, is this getting you upset or are you angry? Is it upsetting or are you getting angry, Gary?
I'm getting angry.
You think snack bags are a little too loud, don't you, Gary?
Yeah. I want to snack in quiet, but I crinkle a bag and people look at me.
It sounds like you want peaceful snacking. You don't want anybody to know you're snacking.
That's right.
Wings don't come in bags. If you get some buffalo chicken wings, those are quiet snacks.
Yeah, but snack is like chips.
Well, aren't wings snacks, Gary?
No, they're meals.
Well, that's a full meal. Sometimes you and me just go for a snack.
Appetizers.
Appetizers.
but not snacks. Snacks crinkle.
All snacks crinkle?
Chocolate bars, chips, gum.
Oh, Gary, you're getting my salivating glands going again, Gary. You know how much I like snacks, Gary.
I do.
Wow. We're so pleased, and Gary and myself and our writing team and our staff and our crew and our producers and some of our linesmen and our mic people, and we're just so pleased to have have Reverend Josh Friend be part of this, Gary. Kind of be part of this whole experience, this whole podcast experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been waiting on this one, Gary, and I haven't showed you this, and I haven't showed the writers, the producers yet, because Reverend Josh Friend did this out in Alberta, and that's quite a ways away from where we are, a few days away, and he had some of his crew and some of his production staff, and I flew Stephanie up just to set the stage, give him a little design where he is, and make sure he feels at home. But
are the Clutterbucks covering that cost?
Well, yeah, it's being covered. It's being covered as one of the expenses. It's one of the costs. So
have you heard from Glenn?
Gary, we're legally not allowed to talk about that right yet. You know that, Gary.
Sorry,
we're just gonna have.
You just reminded me.
I can't delete. I told you that Paul's not here, so we can't delete anything. So we can't do this, Gary. We can't.
You can't.
Gary,
cut the tape.
Gary, it's not a tape, Gary. This is digital. It's not a tape, Gary. You're starting to sound like an idiot, Gary. Anyways, we're so sorry. As you know, Stephanie's over in Alberta. She's setting up the set design. She's working with Josh and Pastor Reverend Josh Friend. And he has sent me an absolutely incredible clip. And he sent me, and this is something I've been saving, kind of waiting for the Christmas episode. And that's a Robert Frost poem. Did you hear that, Gary? Gary?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a Robert Frost poem, Gary. Robert Frost.
Yep. Oh, that's very poignant for being Christmas.
Well, I have a very special connection to Robert Frost, and as you know, I used to live in the Yukon, and Robert Frost comes from there, and he has portraits and he has poems all over the Yukon on buildings, on sides of buildings, and I took you up to Dawson, and I know you were up in Dawson, and we went up and saw on the side of one of the buildings there's this incredible, beautiful poem by Robert Frost. And it's about the Yukon, Gary, and you know that. We've already discussed this before multiple times.
Yep.
So I just wanted to say, I said to Mr. Friend, I said, I'm not using this right away. I'm not using this right away. I'm saving it for the right episode. And Gary, when we were off air, you said this isn't a very good episode, and I agreed with you. I said the content's pretty low because we're drained, aren't we, Gary?
Mm-hmm. We're tired.
We've been.
But you know what I call Robert Frost's poems?
Well, I'm assuming poems. I'm just assuming you call them poems, Gary.
No, I call them Frost lines.
But and that's kind of is that one of those jokes that I'll get later, Gary?
Yeah.
So
you'll get it.
I'll think about this one, Gary, and I'll get it later. It's probably gonna be so good. It's probably gonna be so good. I'm gonna rewind it like 3 or 4 times, Gary. Your jokes are always so over everybody's head. That's one of the things that people brag about when they talk about you. That your jokes are so over their head.
You'll get it.
Most people don't get them. And I say, well, that's why I know he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. And probably, statistically speaking, one of the top 3 funniest people in Canada.
You'll get it.
In the right amount of time, I'll get that. But before we do go any further, I want to share with you this poem by Mr. Josh Friend, but written by Sir Robert Frost. Okay?
So, I can ask you, what do you spray your tree with?
Okay.
And then we can talk about the immunization crap, how this whole polar opposite with parents. Like, do you immunize your kid? Don't you? Do you spray your tree? Don't you?
Okay. I'm gonna count down and just say, what do you spray your tree with? And I'll say, we just got to get out of the poem. Ready? Go.
I'm gonna say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
What do you spray your tree with?
Oh, sorry, Gary. That's right. That's your line. But we got to intro back from the poem. We had a very emotional poem there, Gary, and there's a lot of emotions, and people need a moment just kind of to debrief. So let's just give it a moment here. That was something else. Wasn't that a beautiful poem?
It was gorgeous.
It was heavy hitting.
They were great Frost lines.
Wow, there it goes again with one of those jokes that I'll probably understand a little bit later. So Gary, tell me, our last segment here, and this is something that the writers really wanted to emphasize. They wanted us to talk about this, and it kind of goes off from the question you first asked. So why don't you ask that question again, Gary?
Well, I want to know what you spray your tree with.
That's an amazing question, and I'm going to answer for two people. Okay, I told you before we're not going to discuss the case with Mr. Clutterbucks, but I am going to discuss some of the things that he does. And Mr. Clutterbucks does not spray his trees.
I don't understand it.
Gary, I want to be honest with you. I absolutely do. I use pesticides, and do you know why I use that, Gary?
Why do you use it?
Well, because of science, because of research, and because of people in the field that have been studying this for decades, and if not decades, then years and 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 years, that has been studying disease. Okay, Gary? And disease can affect our trees. And what the last thing we want is wood enthusiasts in the wood enthusiast community. The last thing we want is our trees being diseased and viruses and bugs and holes and weaknesses and and kind of those light foam trees that you find that are laying on the side of the road that kind of explode when they fall because they weren't protected, Gary.
Right. Now, I'm with you 100% on this, but because this is a talk show, we need to bring up the other side. So I'm going to
It's not a talk show, Gary. It's not a talk show, Gary. It's a podcast. It's a podcast, Gary. It's not a talk show. This isn't Jerry Springer, Gary.
Well, I feel like it is sometimes because the issues are so ludicrous.
It's a podcast.
But on this side, what about the argument that says, let the tree fend for itself and it'll protect itself against diseases?
Well, even worse, Gary, some people are saying pesticides create those diseases. Some rare, they say out of a million trees, one of them is going to get, some rare deficiency. And I said, this is ridiculous. We have science.
Sounds like tomfoolery.
We have science. We have 1,000,000 million, doctors, tree doctors, that are saying, hey, we need to use these pesticides. We need to do this. This is what we're doing. This is how we're getting along. Because there's diseases out there, Gary. Diseases we're aware of, Gary.
Yeah, and I'm not going to bring it up, but Edna looked at me the other day and said, how could you spray your tree?
Well,
do you realize how badly I want to spray her?
She's the most mild barbecue sauce you're ever going to meet, is what that woman is. She's not even worth dabbing it on your taste buds. She's not even worth it, Gary.
No, and have you seen her whatever you want to call it in the front yard? I don't call that a tree. It's all withered and it's dying, disgusting. And you can tell that there's bugs all through it and everything because she hasn't sprayed her tree, and it
Gary,
is disgusting.
This is interesting, Gary. I was talking to Pastor Reverend Josh Friend, and he mentioned a little bit of scripture to me that he was talking to me about, and he mentioned the verse, "Don't throw your pearls before swine." And we had a long conversation about this, Gary, but I want to give me a second, Gary, if you don't mind. I want to talk to our listeners here.
Yeah.
There are lots of times where we need to stand up and we need to defend our tree rights. We need to defend our wood. And you know that, and I know that, and I know Gary he's right beside me here, and he knows that. When it comes to pesticides, we need to use them. And the reason I bring up that verse is because there's going to be a few people out there, kooks. Gary, you call them kooks, and I call them vegans. Because they're just as stupid and just as crazy. Kooks are. Yep. So these kooks are out there, and they're saying this, this hippie kind of stuff that you don't pesticide your trees. You're going to give them some sort of rare deficiency, they say. And I said, Gary, I said to Pastor Josh Friend, I said, sometimes I just get myself caught up arguing with these people for days and 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 weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and years and months. You know how it is.
Yeah.
And you get caught up arguing with these people, and you know what he said? He said, Larry, don't throw your pearls before swine. And I looked at him with the craziest look in my eyes, and I said, Pastor Friend Josh, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't have any pearls, and I sure as heck don't have any swine. I know Gary does out at the farm, but I don't have any swine. And he said, no, it's kind of a metaphor, which means don't waste all your time, just kind of lambasting onto a stupid person. Don't waste your time talking to stupid people. You waste a lot of time talking to stupid people. You're just casting those pearls, the little nuggets of gold, which is what the show is. Basically, this entire show is a bead of pearls. It's a bead of pearls. Mm-hmm. The entire time we spend giving out, wads and wads and wads and wads and wads of wisdom, and these people are out here being idiots. You got people like Glenn Clutterbuck watering adult trees, being an idiot, then refusing to do pesticides. The guy doesn't even make it. He's trying to make these trees grow strong, and he refuses to do, the only thing that we know that, removes disease, Gary.
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you on this one.
So, Gary, you're going to hear me say that a lot because that little verse from scripture really touched me when it says, "Don't throw your pearls before swine." That's not literal.
Yeah.
That's not literal, Gary. I mean,
no.
In a literal sense, don't throw actual pearls, to the swine because they'll eat them and it's just be a waste. And that's kind of where where the metaphor makes its money, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Did you know Dolly Parton?
Hey, you said Juno. You said Junos. It sounds like you want to do the Junos, Gary. And then you start talking about Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton's a singer too. Sounds like you want to do the Junos.
Well, I'm glad we could talk about that topic. It's really been bugging me. I feel judged every time I plant a new tree, and it's a young sapling, and I choose to.
We soak it. We just soak it. We soak it, Gary.
Yeah, pesticides.
We dose it. We just dose it. Dose it. Dose that tree.
Well, thank you for being a friend.
Like I always say, Gary. Like I always say, every time you plant a tree, put up a Canadian flag, put up a post at that spot, cement it in 6 feet deep. Put up a post, fly that flag, and dose it in that sauce. Dose it in that pesticide sauce. That's a guarantee. Every dang time you do that, it's a guarantee, Gary. It's a guarantee.
Yep.
It's a guarantee, Gary.
Yep.
Well, this I told Gary this was going to be quick because we've been on the road. We've been on the road from Nimrod to Timbuktu, just traveling, and we were up in Beavertail. We were having Beavertails the other night with some political. I can't say who, Gary. Obviously, I don't want to say who. But some political figures, both American and Canadian. Some big timers. I don't want to say who it is, but let's just say they're wearing an American flag lapel pin. If that makes any headway.
Oh, yeah.
But
you got a few pointers for 2019.
But I had to get some pointers, and to be honest, I want to do them a favor. There's a lot of people that are kind of clamoring to meet us and saying, "Hey, I just want to, I want to get my, I want to get my time in. I want to get time with the boys. I want to get time in with the boys." I always say that, and I say Glenn Clutterbuck, and they just say no, just the guys. Just the guys. The leading fathers of the wood enthusiast community, which is you and me, Gary, and you and me alone.
Tumbling.
And I've been saying this for years. It's just been you and me, Gary.
And I am sorry for being a little off tonight. John Coleman, his death is really
one thing I can say. One thing I can say about him is he may have talked about the wind and how windy it would be, but that sucker will put down his pesticides as fast as the cat's tail can fly.
That's right.
What he would do.
That's right. Thank you.
It's
helped me talking through everything tonight.
He used to have open buckets of pesticides, and he'd say, "You can drink that if you want, or I'm just going to douse at my tree." That's what he would say, Gary.
Yep.
And on that note,
that's a good eulogy.
On that note, Gary, I just want to say happy holidays to all of our listeners. It's been a long time coming. We've been almost maybe a little bit more than a month before we could be doing another episode. But
I want to see Merry Christmas.
Oh, would you like to sing it, Gary?
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Your turn.
Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles
will be out of sight.
Here we are, as in golden days. Happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Oh my goodness. Those songs, Gary, they bring me back to 1997 like you wouldn't believe.
Your voice is just gorgeous.
It just takes me to 1997, Gary. With the Counting Crows. Remember that night? Remember that night with the Counting Crows? That was I think that was the year before they released August and Everything After, but they were just kind of peaking to fame, and we were kind of rising to fame in England a little bit more too, with with Bram Riffelkit. Some of the information we've had with him.
After we end this episode, I'm going to actually go listen to your Walnut Convention song. I have it on repeat for my workout.
Wow, that's humbling. But I can even probably play it on the show. Maybe just let
Well,
people hear it.
would you end the episode with that?
Yeah, that's a really good way to go out. So maybe we'll do that. We'll end it with that song. And again, I just got to remind the people this was raw. This is not in studio. This is not production. This was just me on the piano in Vegas playing kind of the main stage. They always wanted me on the main stage, so I was up there on the main stage playing it, and it just kind of took over. There was something in the air, and it just kind of took over.
Wow, it was a good time.
Well, happy holidays.
I just want to say to you guys, it's been great listening to you. It's been awesome. I've really enjoyed all your episodes. I just want to say happy holidays to you, and to all your listeners. And you guys have been great. And I've appreciated all of your emails and all of your, contacts and the things that you guys have said and done on behalf of wood enthusiasts in England. And it's been just wonderful getting to know you guys. So have a wonderful holiday, Gary and Larry. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Bram, and Merry Christmas to you.
It's so great to hear Bram. It's so great to have him, just kind of, sometimes he'll send me a little clip here and there, but I don't like to misuse his voice. I feel like it's misusing because of his fame. He's the Brad Pitt. He's the Brad Pitt when it comes to A-class celebrities. And actually, he actually knows Brad Pitt, and they spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
But Brad Pitt kind of sucks now because he doesn't do any more movies, Gary. He just produces movies. He doesn't act anymore, Gary. He just produces.
Yep.
He's done acting. So happy holidays from me and Gary, from the wood enthusiast community to yours. Have a wonderful, very Merry Christmas, and let Christ be the center of your season.